this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today I'm answering a Dear Ruth Theresa question. Today I was talking to a client, and I kind of thought this needed to be turning into a video. So I thought I'd turn on the video and kind of give you a little bit of insight. So I had a client who was asking, she's in a relationship. She's, say like 5 or 6 year relationship. Neither one of them really choose to get married at this point in their life. They've both been married before and divorced, and their kids are grown and that sort of thing. So they're kind of like, not like, oh my gosh, I've got to get married. But she's kind of like, should I push to get married? Should I not? And to me, I will tell you that kind of energetically, if you are in a committed relationship, you commit to me, I commit to you, we're not going to cheat, we're not going to do this, we're going to communicate, we're going to do all those things. The energy of it feels just the same as a marriage. The marriage just adds the piece of paper. And so a lot of times people ask me that, and I'm like, it's just the piece of paper, kind of like our human part of it. But I will also tell you that kind of one of the fun things is there are a lot of benefits, health benefits and other benefits for being in a long-term relationship. It does not have to be a marriage. It can be a long-term relationship. And it really depends on what you desire in your life. I think a lot of times younger people are really like, they want to be married, and that's okay. If that's what you want, that's an amazing thing to understand. This is what I want, and this is why I want it. Totally okay. Sometimes people that are a little bit older are kind of like, I don't want to, mess with my, mixing finances or money or any of that stuff. So they're like, we'll just live together and be happy with that. Totally your choice. Like I said, energetically, they're kind of feeling that they feel the same. So it's really hard to distinguish between a marriage and a long-term relationship. But I will tell you that there is a couple of benefits that you may get from being in a long-term relationship, either married or just living together. It doesn't matter. One of the things I will say is you have these shared memories. And I would say this is kind of a fun part of talking about long-term memories that you remember with, oh, remember when we went here, remember when we did this, remember when this happened, all of those things, and kind of really brings back that happiness. So when you've been in a long-term relationship, bringing back those happy memories of, oh, do you remember when we went to Cancun, or do you remember when we went to wherever? And those can bring back those memories. Even if you're not there, it can bring back the memory of those fun trips, fun things that happen, and kind of bring up that happiness again. Shared memories on vacation, or just, doing things together in your house, or doing things, remember when we had dinner with so-and-so and this happened and we laughed and all that kind of stuff. Those can bring up just as happy a memory as when it happened. So that's kind of one of those like, wow, didn't even know that. Yeah, it can bring up those happy memories. Plus you have someone who remembers things that you do. Oh, I remember when this happened. I remember when this happened. And I think that's something that a lot of people overlook. I will tell you that one of the things that my grandmother said, my grandmother passed away at 93, and she said to me when I was younger, and I didn't quite understand it then, but I understand it now. She said, Ruth, there's not a lot of people that have been through the same things I have been through. It's kind of like those shared memories of kind of like a global thing. She said, like, your parents remember like where they were when JFK were shot. She said, I remember hearing about World War II. The first time I heard about it, like, oh my gosh. And, you know what I'm saying? Like the Depression, the first time she heard like money had no value and that sort of thing, like all of the stock market is losing value. And she's like, I don't understand a lot of this, but it was one of those like kind of that interesting, like what happened kind of thing. She had so many of those memories that no one really around her had those same shared memories. And she said, it's kind of sad. Like all the people that remember the same things I do, they're not around anymore. They're all past. And her husband had passed, my grandfather had passed, and many of her friends, her older friends that remembered those things had all passed. So she was kind of like, I don't have anybody to talk about things from the past. And I just thought it was really interesting. And now I get it, like being long-term married, it's one of those like having those same shared memories of places that you've been or what you were doing when you heard about this. Where were you when you heard about 9/11? Where were you when this happened? Where were you when this happened? And those are the shared memories of my generation, but her generation went so far back. It was one of those like to have those same shared memories. And it was something that I didn't understand at the time, but I do understand now. Kind of the next benefit is kind of like being able to correct each other's thinking or their bias in something, or I think this is bad, or I think this is good. And a lot of times it can really kind of give that person a different insight. And usually we end up being with someone who has thinking opposite from us. So it kind of really gives us an opportunity to kind of work through things differently, because usually you have someone in a relationship that's a saver. They always want to save money for a rainy day or a vacation, or they're saving it for something. And then you'll have someone who's the spender, who's like, impulse buyer, I have to buy this right away. And so when you talk about like correcting those biases or kind of like correcting that energy, the spender is like, oh, let's grab this, it'll be great. And the saver will be like, no, maybe we shouldn't. And now you get an opportunity to kind of find that great communication between the two of you. And what are we going to do together? How are we going to fix this? Are we going to buy the item, or are we going to not buy the item? And it's not necessarily yay, buy, don't buy, all that kind of stuff. It's more having the connection to someone else and talking things through and talking about things with someone else who understands where you come from. The saver wants to save. The shopper wants to shop. And so neither one of them are bad, but it's one of those, like, it gives you that great place to, okay, let's find a great connection. Let's bring these together. And usually in a relationship, you have a lot of differences. Like I said, a shopper and a saver, that's kind of an easy one. But I will tell you, one that's more like hot-headed and one that's more calm, yeah, that's the same way. You're going to have like two different areas of this, of like, wow, this is like opposites, and so now we can kind of look at this a little bit differently than we've done in the past, and that can make all the difference in the world of having a great life, because you get the differences of both opinions, and then you get to choose together and do what you're going to do. So I will tell you, the next one is you get a feeling of security. And I don't mean like the other person is your security guard. You have someone who understands who you are, someone that you've bonded to, someone that you have a great place to kind of like, this bad thing happened to me and I just want to talk it out. You have someone to kind of go to in a crisis. When things happen, it's like you have that person to pick up the phone and give them a call. And kind of the one that's coming to my mind is a couple of years ago, I had never had them before, but I had kidney stones. I had never had them before, never even, I've heard of them, but I've just never had experienced them. And I was home and I started feeling bad. I did a couple of errands and I came back and I was like, man, I just, something's wrong, something's off. And I kind of was like, I'm going to lay down for a little bit, maybe everything will pass. And I laid down and the pain got worse. And it was like, oh my gosh, now this is like 1,000 times worse than it was. And when I called my husband, he was in a meeting. And so he kind of sent me that response of like, oh, I'm in a meeting. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Yet at the same time, it was like, I called back again and he was like, okay, obviously this is really important. And I told him what was happening. And he was like, okay, call an ambulance, because I didn't know what was happening. He didn't know what was happening. But it was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? So I had that benefit of having him as kind of like keeping my head on straight, kind of when I'm in a lot of pain, kind of like, how do we do this? Or how do we kind of get together on this? And kind of always having someone there in like a health crisis, a family crisis, having someone there when a family member passes. How do you work through this? How do you deal with all the funeral stuff, all the people that are going on? What are the things? So you have two people that are opposite each other that are able to help them through that sort of thing. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of sense of security of, I have someone who thinks opposite of me, and so we can kind of make decisions together. And that's probably one of the best benefits, I think, of having a long-term relationship. The next one is like the health behavior. I think men are usually the worst at this, of like not wanting to go to the doctor. But it's one of those, like, if one person is starting to eat healthier, it's going to affect the other person. If one person is doing something and the other one isn't, it's one of those, like, it kind of gives you like if one is eating healthy, you're going to change the behavior of the other person. Like, okay, let's eat healthier. If one is going for a walk, you're kind of like, okay, well, I'll go for a walk with you. And so now you get to kind of push and pull each other into like healthier behaviors together, usually kind of losing weight together, or kind of like this being a part of like a community together. Like, okay, we'll do this together. And it kind of gets you out and about, kind of different places, and gets you into that more active eating healthier, going on walks, going on hikes or whatever else, and kind of getting out and about, and maybe a little bit differently than you normally would be. And it's usually your partner that's kind of pulling you in that area. It's like, okay, now we need to do this. Kind of my last one is, a lot of times having the judgment of our partner, kind of like, what do they think about things, but what do they think about us? A lot of times people will say, my partner's my best friend and that sort of thing. And it really is true, because your life partner, your husband, your spouse, your wife, whatever it is, usually ends up being that person that's always there for you. They're the person that's always around. They're the one that's going to kind of give you that balance and usually give you some positive feedback for things. And so that really does give you this safe place to kind of like, I was thinking this and putting this in this area. And I will tell you, kind of the interesting part in all of this is, if you are in a relationship that doesn't really have the majority of this, or have this the majority of the time, you may not be in a healthy relationship as you thought you were. I have had clients that have said, oh, I'm in a great relationship. And as we talk about it, I can go, no, you're not in a great relationship. You're in a relationship usually with a narcissistic personality, or someone who is using you or something like that. So that's that energy. A lot of times, like, we don't think that that's going to happen to us, that we're going to be in these weird relationships. But if you're not careful, if you don't have at least the majority of these 5 ideas, it's one of those, you probably are not in a healthy relationship as you really thought you were. And so that can give you a little bit of insight too, of kind of like, maybe there are some changes that you would like to make, or, I'm saying, sometimes it's like, I don't want to be judged. I just want to have this conversation. Sometimes it's, I'm thinking differently than you, and letting that person know. And a lot of times that right there can change a lot of attitude and energy in what's going on in the relationship. And if it's not changing, maybe it's time for you to make some new decisions. Think about it. Let's do some angel cards, and let's get us a little bit more information on the health benefits, or the hidden benefits in having long-term relationships. The first one is transits, and this is all about the climate. If we have a climate where we can talk to our partner and have these great discussions with things about old memories, things that have come up, or changes that we want to make, becoming healthier, eating more, exercising more, whatever it is, and having a climate where we can communicate with someone else and we feel honored and respected in that, it can really, really make you feel loved, honored, respected, and so much better about yourself. I think that's kind of the special part. Saturn, this is all about the structure. When we set up our relationships, kind of that structure that I think most people really want to have, is having someone that's got your back. And a lot of times people are craving that in relationships. And if you're craving that and you're in a relationship that's already telling you like something's maybe not 100% right with that one, but I will tell you that having that structure where you can talk to someone else without feeling judged, without feeling attacked or anything else, can make you feel like, yes, I'm on the right track with this person. Next one is solar flares, and this is about activate. Like I said, we can really activate the other person to kind of start eating healthier, doing things differently, kind of like maybe changing a impulse buyer into a little bit of a saver, maybe not 100%, but a little bit once in a while. And that can really activate a lot of good energy for us, of kind of, now we're saving for something. Is this really this important? Or should we save up for our next vacation? That's a fun one. This is Capricorn, and this is achieve. I think together, that's one of the things that I think I really like in long-term relationships, is having that, being able to achieve things together, working on something together. It's not just you by yourself. It's kind of this coming together of new ideas of we're going to do this together, whatever it goes. We're going to be on vacation together. We're going to have these new great ideas, and that can make everybody feel so much better and a lot more fun. This is Mars, and this is about motion. I think that's kind of one of the things I love the most. My husband is a person that sits down all day, usually at a desk, and it's kind of fun that he kind of motivates me to keep active and motivating. I'm kind of one of those people that kind of have like a very soft, easy energy a lot of times, and I can be activated, I can be going, but a lot of times like he's the one like, let's go for a walk, let's go do this. And so I'll be like, okay, here we go. And I enjoy myself once I'm out and about, but it's kind of like, don't really want to go at the beginning. So that's kind of a fun one for me, is that he really gets me active. We like to go to the mall and walk around, or go to different stores and walk around and just kind of like look at things. And that really keeps me active and going as well. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.